watching the India development debate. I'm Tamanna Inamdar. Yes, climate change is real and it will impact all of us, possibly more than any other phenomenon. Having said that, is throwing money at it the answer? The context, of course, is billionaire Amazon founder and the richest man in the world, Jeff Bezos, announcing a $10 billion commitment to the Bezos Climate Fund. Bezos' generosity, of course, comes after several Amazon employees have said the company is not doing enough to mitigate climate change. But that aside, it's an interesting move considering just last month, India Inc.'s top leaders, including Ratan Tata, Anand Mahindra, Rohini Nilekani, and many more, created the India Climate Collaborative to fund climate crisis solutions in India. But is funding the answer? And what do we do with these funds? In India, is there any concrete realization or any real plan actually to tackle climate change? To speak on this, I'm joined today by Damandeep Singh, Director of the Carbon Disclosure Project, Professor Shreekant Gupta from the Delhi School of Economics, and Kapil Subramanian, Deputy Program Manager at Climate Change Center for Science and Environment. Welcome to all of you and thank you for speaking with us today. Mr. Singh, let me begin with your inputs on this. It comes at a time, by the way, if you're in Mumbai, like we are, our headquarters are at ET now, you would have noticed an unusually hot day yesterday, which was 7 degrees above the average in the month of February. So it's impacting all of us. There is now a huge fund. Jeff Bezos has put a lot of money in it. What do we do with that money? What should the world do with that money, Mr. Singh?
Thanks, Tamanna. Thanks for having CDP on your show. The money is important because it helps catalyze action. What they need to do, Mr. Bezos is not the first billionaire to step up. We've had in the US Tom Steyer, we have had Bloomberg, and from UK we have Chris Hone, whose TCI has been voted the most successful hedge fund, has set up an investment called CIF, Children's Investment Fund Foundation, that funds activities for children and for climate change, and that is of the order of 5.1 billion. So there has been a lot of money at it. Now what's required with this extraordinary infusion is to bring everyone together and to come towards a holistic plan on how to address it. There are, of course, India's plan, India's NDC states that it would need $2.3 trillion equivalent to take action on the stated actions on climate change. However, these kind of funds that are established can catalyze action, can promote technologies that are actually on the cusp and need that little push and support. If we go back to renewables, we see over a decade ago, the renewable costs were 10 times more than what they are today. So with that little push and effort, there can be new technologies that can be commercialized, that can be made useful, that can have an impact and lower our carbon emissions. So it really, the devil is in the detail. We need to see the plan, what it is, but this is an encouraging sign, and Amazon needs to step up and take action on their own. They have committed to going carbon neutral, but how they will do so is still open and needs to be investigated.
No, so, I want to bring this back to India. And of course, it's great if there's money in. Amazon is a big country, a big company. And of course, it will have its impact. But I want to bring it back to India and our level of awareness and an action plan. Mr. Shreekant Gupta, where do you come in on that? And remember, Jeff Bezos's, huge contribution is a starting point for that conversation. We can possibly raise funds here as well. What will we do with them?
Thanks, Tamanna. I was just looking up some numbers, and I just saw that the 15 richest Indians have a net worth of $215 billion. So I think in addition to what Daman said about this becoming a catalyst, I think there should also be a demonstration effect. You did mention some sort of a coalition, but I do believe that Indian billionaires are far behind their Western counterparts in philanthropy. You probably know that Bill Gates has already given away $54 billion of his wealth and has signed a giving away pledge that during their living lifetimes, they will give away half of their wealth. So I think in addition to the other aspects of what Bezos has done, I think there's a signaling aspect, there should be a demonstration aspect, and I would be very happy if Indian billionaires, starting with the richest man in Asia, would also try to put a little bit more of their money where their mouth is. Having said that, I am sorry to say that the actions in our country don't look that good. On paper, yes, a lot is happening, but actually if you look at our entire power sector, it's in total disarray. And despite what the government has been saying about its targets, I think there are some serious concerns about the financial viability of our renewable energy projects, which have to be viewed in the overall context of the serious financial problems that the power sector is facing. And we also know that Indian emissions are going to double by 2030 as compared to 2012 levels. So once you remove the optics, I think there are some serious causes for concern in what we are doing about climate in our country.
Even serious causes for concern in the sense of acknowledgement. I'm just going to play out for you this report my colleague Karunya Rao has filed today, where she's talked about high AQI levels in Mumbai. It's not just Delhi, and extremely warm weather here, and other indicators like that should worry us. Let's listen in.
Not only are we already witnessing hotter days, but the early onset of summer has also brought in some bad news in the form of the air quality deteriorating. If you look at the top cities of our country, already Delhi is very well known for its pollution and the deteriorating air quality, but Mumbai seems to be catching up with Delhi on that note as well, because the Mumbai Air Quality Index AQI levels have reached 243 as recorded early this morning, followed by the likes of Pune, which is 183, Hyderabad as well as Kolkata at 123. Ahmedabad is also over 100, indicating to a moderate air quality, and Bengaluru, Chennai are the least polluted among the top metros of our country, with Chennai being the lowest at 52 in terms of AQI levels. Now, Mumbai, like you flagged off, has seen worst day air in a year at the early onset of summer. In fact, it's the highest level of air pollution in the city since a very poor air quality was, last recorded during January last year, according to another agency called SAFAR, also known as SAFAR. They say that 5 of 10 locations in Mumbai have recorded very poor air quality on Monday as well. The likes of Navi Mumbai being the most polluted at 347, followed by BKC, Andheri, Malad and Mazgaon. There was Borivali and Chembur, Worli and Kolaba as well on the list of poor air quality areas, but with Bhandup being the cleanest air at moderate level of 148 AQI. Definitely, 6 of the country's most polluted cities are located in UP. If you look at the big picture, Jharia and Jharkhand, which is also a coal-rich area, and on back of the mining activity that takes place, it's the most polluted city in the country. Delhi is at number 10 this year versus number 8th position in 2019. Noida, Ghaziabad, NCR are at number 3, number 4. Lung Leh in Mizoram is the least polluted city in India, and these are based on annual levels of 2019. So while Delhi air quality seems to have gone 2 notches below, in the sense that 2 notches better, Mumbai seems to be now on the radar, and all eyes are on Mumbai, given that how badly the air quality has deteriorated all of a sudden.
Well, that's just about Mumbai, but we see various instances which prove that climate change is impacting us more and more. Let me come back to you, Mr. Singh, on the central question of there are still a number of people out there who are not very sure climate change is actually even happening. And here we're expecting India Inc. to come forward, like Professor Gupta talked about, bring a fund together. Do you think this needs to be pushed from the government?
Oh, of course, no denying it that the government needs to step up and accelerate this action. As I told you, we work with a lot of companies, and they are taking action, but they on voluntarily, and they tell us they can only take action up to a certain limit. But to cross that threshold, they need that push from the government. They need that policy certainty, which actually the government is not able to provide. India is the lead, along with Sweden, to work on industry transition. This has been set up under the UN, where the Prime Minister Modi went in September and made this announcement, along with some other countries have joined. But where is the action on that? There is no action. I mean, now we will actually, in the next week or so, we'll have the world's premier climate change denier, President Donald Trump, coming to India. But they will be talking about trade and so on. So this sends mixed signals and does not help the cause. I mean, we need to send a very clear signal to the market, to the investors, to the companies that will need to change the way they've been doing things. How will a steel industry invest in changing their blast furnace operations to become greener if the signals are not coming from the government?
You know, the other problem really is, and Professor Gupta, come in on this, to ask India right now to be at the forefront of changing technology so as to put some sort of a brake on climate change would be a tough ask, where you have small businesses which are already floundering. It just seems like it is not going to be top of the priority.
Yes, I think you have a point there, but just to step back to what you were saying earlier about whether we recognize this as a problem, just want to share 3 headline facts with you. The first, that January 2020 was the warmest in terms of minimum temperatures in India since we started keeping records in 1901. And the period 2015-19 has been the warmest ever 5-year period ever recorded since we started measuring temperatures globally. So the evidence that climate change is happening is incontrovertible. As Daman mentioned, the chief denier notwithstanding, the fact that it is happening, the fact that it's very serious, the data coming from IPCC, etc., is extremely alarming. But nonetheless, since you are a news journalist, you would understand the news cycle, and you would know better than me how salient all of this is in the public consciousness. We seem to be a very split personality in terms of, we are talking about climate now, and I think it's very good that you're talking about it. But if you pick up the newspapers, it sometimes seems to me that climate change is happening on another planet. I mean, we are caught up with temples and cows and so many other issues in our country. It's sometimes very, very frustrating. So I think that there is that kind of dichotomy between what the data is telling us and how people seem to be internalizing it. And the way I think about it, it's like the frog in the pan of water, which is very slowly coming to a boil, and by the time it's actually boiling, the frog can't jump out, it's too late. So I think that is really the big challenge. Yes, of course, what you mentioned about small businesses, etc., is a challenge. But as Daman himself mentioned, there are some very proactive steps. For example, organizations like his are doing in terms of carbon disclosure. But I really do think that the government has to be much more serious, and its flagship effort, if I may again repeat, in terms of renewables and solar, is in serious trouble. And I think they are in denial about it.
You know, I'm glad you pointed that out, Professor Gupta, and often that, you're right, as a journalist, that's the challenge you face, of keeping up with the headlines and then focusing on what really impacts people. And we believe climate change definitely does. It deserves to be talked about on top of the show as the first debate, which is what we're doing. I have Kapil Subramanian with me. I want your inputs. We're talking about a couple of things here. We started our conversation with Jeff Bezos making this huge donation to a climate change fund. But the question we're really asking is, what is the level of perception and realization in India? Do we seem like we have a plan? Because even if we get the funds together here, what are we going to do with it?
I think, I mean, just to quickly go into the Amazon issue, as I said, Amazon has a significant impact on the environment. For long, there was the idea that online shopping would have a lower carbon footprint, but with the introduction of fast delivery services such as Amazon Prime and now Amazon Prime Now, for items as small as a shaving razor, it has completely overturned the mat on online shopping's environmental impact. Now, Amazon has set a 2040 decarbonization date. This may be compared to the Indian Railways 2030 decarbonization rate. Consider that the Indian Railways is in a third world country and is a world leading logistics provider. Compared to Amazon, it's a much larger consumer of fossil fuel, and it has set a 2030 date. Amazon has set a 2040 date. This is something to think about. Now, as for Bezos' investment itself, he is known to be something of a dilettante billionaire. He's been spending $1 billion a year on Blue Origin, a company that seeks to mine planets in outer space because we've apparently mined the Earth enough. And it is based on the idea that the human brain can only achieve optimal operation with first world energy consumption levels. And I mean, I look forward to achieving those first world energy consumption levels. So there are serious issues with Amazon's pledge itself. Now, coming to India, India is performing quite well on a lot of climate change mitigation parameters. Globally, it is performing quite well as compared to many other countries. Planning is a key problem. For example, climate change and climate risk, particularly for agriculture, needs to be mainstreamed into our budgetary allocation process. It needs to be mainstreamed into thinking such as the economic survey. It needs to be mainstreamed into every aspect of government spending. And more than a standalone plan, what we need is for climate change to be mainstreamed into every aspect of government activity at the state level, at the national level, and at the municipal level.
No, so which is exactly the question. Is it mainstreamed? Are we thinking about climate change? And very interesting, in the middle of a hearing today, the Supreme Court and judges on that bench making some very significant observations. We'll just run those graphics for you as well, where, the Chief Justice talking about the fact that governments are not taking cognizance of climate change as well. In fact, the Chief Justice of India saying deforestation is so rapid that before anybody knows, there will be no green cover. It is really telling that the top court is taking cognizance on this and of these issues, but are our governments, where the push between industrialization and development and climate change is where it should have been decades ago. If you can come in on that, Mr. Singh, as well. And we addressed that briefly with Professor Gupta earlier. The fact that India is trying to push local industry. So coming down hard on certain industries which pollute will be a tough ask. And at the end of the day, isn't that what you need to do? Even if you have a huge fund, unless you're changing the way people are doing business, if you're not able to find solutions for crop burning, for example, then really what are the point of these funds? Yeah, that question is for Mr. Singh.
I totally agree, Tamanna. There needs to be holistic thinking. Yes. There needs to be holistic action and thinking. I mean, Delhi's come up with this harebrained scheme of these smog towers. And I think CEW put out some figures that if to clean up Delhi's air, you would probably need so many smog towers that would amount to twice of Delhi's budget. So it's really not the solution. As you mentioned about crop burning. Now, crop burning, all the CSR efforts, all the companies that spend money and have farm equipment, for instance, Mahindra, why can't they get together and work with the farmers during the harvesting season and provide them their tractors or farm equipment at a lower rate or through their CSR funds to help them clear their fields so they don't have to burn? Because those are issues. There are others that can collect and burn the agriculture waste as fuel. So there are solutions, but there needs to be a coming together of people working and towards a common goal. I mean, for us, for instance, smart cities seem to be fancy control rooms with screens and so on. Smart city is not that. I mean, cities across the world have taken targets to be carbon neutral. London has taken a target to be carbon neutral by 2050. So to do that, they have set up a committee of city officials with businesses saying, how can you help us achieve this? So they come together and they work towards a plan where there is funding, there is brain power that's put in, there is management resources that are allocated that can help move in that direction. And as an offshoot, there is also business that's coming in. I believe Ashok Leyland has won a contract to supply electric buses to London, for instance.
Yeah.
So there can be these green shoots for smaller industry. I mean, do we really need to go down the path of heavy pollution? Can't there be, I mean, there is fantastic groups that are working with Rajasthan on fabrics to do vegetable dyes on fabrics and to work on those. And several other newer products that can be promoted, and that's where all these funds can come in as catalyst
Right.
to grow over that threshold to say these are new products, these are new designs that can come into the market that can help move everybody in a sustainable path.
Yeah, but you know, eco-friendly products are usually priced higher. Let's look at the realities of the Indian market as well. Kapil wants to come in from a while. Yes, Kapil.
Yeah, a couple of things about the UK and the 2050 net zero carbon date. Let's be very clear. The IPCC has said that the world as a whole needs to achieve net zero by 2050. This means that developed countries like the UK, like London, need to achieve it by 2030. So let's not put their climate action on a pedestal, right? That is point number one. Point number two being, there is a lot that India, of course, needs to do. There is to mitigate climate change as well as adapt to it. A lot of this can happen in the developing country context by not necessarily a crackdown on industry, but that needs to come in at some point as well. The most important thing is to think about a national coal phase out date, a date for which power plants in India are going to stop burning coal, and I think that is a date that India definitely needs to think about. But more generally, I mean, there's a lot of greenwashing right now going on in the UK, which is to be the president of the Conference of Parties of the UNFCCC this year, the conference being held in Glasgow. And we need to be very aware of that before we start talking about London and the UK.
I'm going to have to end it here. But believe you me, this is one subject we can talk a lot more about. There is so much more to say and discuss, which is why this is the most crucial story we need to look at this evening. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on The Big Debate.